Bonjour les élèves, j'espère que vous allez bien. Aujourd'hui, on va prendre une leçon sur les verbes pronominaux qui s'appellent les oiseaux se regardent. We have been doing lessons on verb pronominal or reflexive verbs for quite some time now. We are putting a particular emphasis on reflexive verbs because of its complex structure. In the previous coursework, we have learned what was verb pronominal or reflexive verbs, and in this particular lesson, we are going to talk about different aspects within the pronominal verb. So, as we have learned in our previous coursework that pronominal verbs are of different types, in this particular lesson, we are talking one by one different kinds of pronominal verb. Like for example, les oiseaux se regardent. So, if you remember, we have done something like s'en aller means to go away and aller means to go. So, the way reflexive verbs change their meaning slightly, there are another kind of reflexive verbs which acts on the person or the subject of the verb. Like elle se lave means she is washing herself. Today we are going to talk about those verbs which are not generally reflexive verbs, but we use them to show the reciprocalness between the subjects or the subject and the object. Reciprocal verbs are a type of pronominal verbs, meaning they have both a subject pronoun and a reflexive pronoun. In case of reciprocal verbs, the reflexive pronoun indicates that the action of the verb exchanged between two or more subjects acting upon each other. For example, les oiseaux se regardent means the birds are looking at each other. Nous nous connaissons means we know each other. So, here and the third one, ils se parlent souvent means they often talk to each other or one another. In this particular case, you see regarder means to look at, but se regarder actually replaces at each other. So, this reciprocalness so you cannot use it with all the verbs, but in case there is a reciprocal sense like je connais Jacques, I know Jack, but Jack also knows me. So, nous nous connaissons, we know each other. So, knowing becomes a reciprocal verb between two people. So, in that case, we are using nous nous connaissons. Ils se parlent souvent. Parler means to speak, but se parler means to talk to each other. So, there are many verbs in which you can create this reflexive form just to indicate each other. For example, adorer, j'adore ce tableau means I love this painting. S'adorer means to adore each other. Aimer means to love, but when you say Marie et Jacques s'aiment means Marie and Jack loves each other. S'apercevoir means to see each other. Similarly, s'appeler can be also to call one another. But remember, s'appeler is another verb which is, so s'appeler can have two meanings. Je m'appelle means I call myself, but that is a born reflexive verb. Se battre, battre means to fight, se battre means to fight with one another. Chercher means to look for, and se chercher means to look for one another or each other. Comprendre. Comprendre means to understand, and se comprendre means to understand one another. Connaître means to know, and se connaître means to know one another. Croiser means to cross or to pass by, but se croiser means to cross each other. Détester means to hate, and se détester means to have mutual hatred for each other. Se dire. Dire means to tell, and se dire means to tell each other. Disputer means to dispute or to argue, but se disputer means to argue with each other. Écrire. So you see, there is loads of verbs which we have learnt already as a single one-way action can be turned into reflexive according to the context. S'écrit, écrit means to write, s'écrit means to write each other. So you can say, moi et mon père, on s'écrit, means my father and I write to each other, emails or letters. S'embrasser, embrasser, you know, but s'embrasser means to kiss each other. So, you know, embrasser is also a French part of French culture. So, when you say that je t'embrasse, literally means when you say it, it kind of translates to like I offer you a kiss, because that's the way the French people greet each other. And s'embrasser means to kiss each other or one another. Entendre means like, again, this is another verb, to get along or to agree with each other, that is s'entendre. Se nuire means to harm each other, but s'entendre and entendre are two different verbs, so there is also a form of s'entendre which is born reflexive verb. So, se parler means to talk to each other, se permettre, promettre. Promettre, mettre means to keep, promettre means to promise. Se promettre means to promise to each other. Quereller means to quarrel, and se quereller means to quarrel with one another. And quitter means to leave. Se quitter means to leave one another. On se quitte ici means we leave from here. We leave each other from here. As I was telling you, regarder means to look at each other. Rencontrer is to meet. Sans rencontrer means to meet each other. Sourire is to smile. So, sourire and se sourire means to smile at each other. Then, se téléphoner. Se téléphoner means to call someone. Se téléphoner means to call each other. You can say, Marie et Isabelle, elles se téléphonent assez souvent. So, Mary and Isabel call each other very often. Voir means to see. To see each other is se voir. On se voit assez souvent. We see each other very frequently. So now, reflexive verb or reflexive pronouns indicate that the subject of the verb is performing the action on him, her or itself rather than on something or someone else. The majority of the reflexive verbs have to do with one's own body, clothing, relationships or state of mind. So, as I was saying that elle se regarde dans le miroir means she is looking at herself in the mirror. So, here I will try to point out three different kinds already. Like there are some verbs which are born reflexive verbs. For example, s'appeler. I mean, appeler is a different verb, it has a different meaning, and s'appeler means s'appeler. But there are certain verbs in which if you just add the reflexive pronoun, they have slightly, they act on each other. Like on se regarde means we are looking at each other. So, the looking at does not change its meaning. And there are also some verbs in which it is reflexive because you are doing it on your own self, or the subject is doing it on its own self. For example, when you are looking at the mirror, for example, elle se regarde dans le miroir, she is looking at herself in the mirror. So here, she is looking at the mirror means the mirror is an object, but she is not looking at the mirror. She is looking at her image in the mirror. So it becomes elle se regarde dans le miroir. Then, je me couche à minuit means I go to bed at midnight. So, je me couche means I go to bed myself. So, I kind of this action refers to me. Or, tu t'habilles trop lentement. These are the examples which we have also discussed in other lessons. You are dressing up too slow means the dressing up is happening on you. So, tu t'habilles. So, now there are like s'adjoindre, like to take an appointment, s'adresser à means to speak to, s'apprêter means to get ready, s'approcher de means to approach, s'arrêter means to stop oneself, s'asseoir means to sit down. So, for example, these verbs always come as a reflexive verb. Se baigner means to take a bath or to swim, se brosser, because you cannot brush others. I mean, you can, but in general parlance, you cannot. So, je me brosse, tu te brosses, brosser les dents, to brush your teeth, is an action that you perform on yourself. So, se brosser, se casser. You know, you break your hand, arm or leg. So, se casser. I mean, you don't break it. It is not like when you break something, tu as cassé mes lunettes means, oh, you have broken my spectacles or my glasses. But when you say that I broke my hand, so here in English when you say I broke my hand, that the second my becomes se casser. Je me suis cassé mon bras. Okay, I have broken my arm. Se coiffer, in the same kind of reasoning goes for se coiffer, means to dress your hair, to fix your hair. So, je me coiffe means I fix my own hair. Like se coucher, like you go yourself to the bed. Se couper means, je me suis coupé mon doigt, means I have cut my finger. So, the action is on myself. But there is also another verb which is couper, which means to cut something else. So, similarly, se dépêcher is to hurry, se déshabiller, to get undressed, se disperser, to disperse or to break up, se doucher means to take a shower, and s'effrayer means to be frightened. Je me suis effrayé de fantômes. I am frightened of ghosts. S'éloigner means to move away from oneself away. Je m'éloigne des mauvais gens. I take myself away from the bad people. S'endormir means to fall asleep. When you fall asleep, it's an action that happens on you. S'énerver means to get. Je m'énerve beaucoup avec ce garçon. I get very annoyed with this boy. So, je m'énerve, tu t'énerves. So, these are the verbs which kind of gets you back to the self. S'enrhumer means to catch cold. You have caught a cold for yourself. So, je me rhume. So, s'enrhumer. Se fâcher is to get angry. You get angry yourself. Se faire means to make, like for example, when you say, je me fais un café, I am making a coffee for myself. S'habiller, which we have already talked of. S'habituer à, to get used to. Se fatiguer means to get tired. Se fier means to trust. S'imaginer means to imagine. S'informer means to find out or to inform oneself. Je m'informe des événements politiques de mon pays. I am informing myself about the political events in the country. S'inquiéter means to worry, means je m'inquiète beaucoup, I am worried. Here, time and again I am trying to tell you that these are the verbs are acting on yourself. S'inscrire means je m'inscris à l'école, I am getting registered myself to the school. In fact, in English, this reflexive verbs, a reflexive sense is always implicit, but in French, this reflexive form and the idea is quite explicit. S'intéresser à means to be interested in. Se laver, I have given this example before. Se laver les mains, se laver la figure means to wash your face. So, se lever means to get up. Se maquiller means to put up on makeup, like je me maquille avec les choses de ma sœur, means I am putting up makeup with the things of my sister. Se marier means to get married to, like je me marie à quelqu'un. So I get married to somebody. Se moucher means to blow one's nose. So je me moucher. Se noyer means to drown. So when you sink in the water or you drown in the water, it's an action that happens on yourself. Se nuire means to harm oneself. Se peiner, to comb one's hair. Se précipiter means to rush. Se promener means to take a walk. Se promener means you take a walk or somebody is taking a walk on herself or himself. So similarly, there is se raser, to shave, se rassembler, to gather, se refroidir means to cool down, se régaler means to enjoy oneself, se regarder means to look at oneself, se reposer means to take rest, se réserver to keep for oneself, se réveiller means to wake up. Se saouler means to get drunk. So when you je me saoule means you drink too much of alcohol and you get drunk. So se saouler. Se sourire means to smile at oneself. Je me souris. So I got something and je me souris. I am smiling at myself. Se suffire means to be self-sufficient. Se suicider means to commit suicide. So il se suicide means he committed suicide. Se taire means to be quiet. So you have to understand reflexive verbs and the participe passé have a very, very special relationship, because when do we use participe passé? We use participe passé for passé composé and other composed form of past or future. We haven't done future enough, but one of the things like we have learned in this coursework, present tense, imperative and past tense, which is called in French passé composé. In passé composé, you remember when we talked about passé composé, we said that you need an auxiliary verb, like, and there are only two possibilities of auxiliary verb in French, avoir or être. So in this case of auxiliary verb, in this case of reflexive verbs, the auxiliary verb is always être. So it's être and the past participle. So the participe passé of reflexive verbs generally agrees with the subject, like nous nous sommes levés très tôt means we woke up very early, but you see lever, there is an extra s because the participe passé, when it is conjugated with être, then the participe passé takes the number and the gender of the subject. So nous is generally plural, so therefore we have added an s. So now, however, the participe passé does not agree with the subject if the verb is followed by a direct object. Here it becomes interesting and complicated. So now we are going to give you one example. Elle s'est lavé les mains. She washed herself the hands. So you see between laver and les mains, there is no preposition. So it's a direct object. But if you have to say elle s'est lavé, then the laver comes with an extra e. This is very, very important. So, as I have said before, if it is followed by a direct object means between the verb and the object there is no preposition. Like, elle s'est lavé les mains. Laver les mains, so laver is the verb. So, s'est lavé les mains, there is no preposition. So, for this thing, there is no agreement or alteration in the participe passé with the subject. But when you have to say she washed herself, elle s'est lavée, there you have to definitely put an extra E. No direct object. Remember, the past participle never agrees with an indirect object. For example, Marie et Laurent se sont téléphonés. So, indirect object is téléphoner à qui? Ce sont. So, these are the few cases where, in spite of being conjugated with être, it is not, the participe passé does not take the number and the gender of the subject. The participe passé does not agree with the subject of the following verbs: se téléphoner, se parler, se mentir, se plaire, and like plaire with prefix complaire, déplaire, there can be many variations. Se sourire, se rire, se nuire, se succéder, se suffire, se ressembler et s'en vouloir. For these particular verbs, there is no change of participe passé. This is because the reflexive pronoun is an indirect object. It is used in the sense of each other. So, all the reflexive verbs are actually conjugated with auxiliary être, but in case of the number and the gender of the participe passé, when it talks of each other, then there is a break in that rule and you don't make the participe passé as per the subject's gender and number. And similarly, if there is an direct object, that means between the verb and the object there is no preposition, then you do not also put the participe passé in the number and the gender of the subject. I hope it is clear to you, and today we have learned another volley of new words and primarily reflexive verbs, les verbes pronominaux. So, I would request you, as the problem actually occurs for passé composé, because in passé composé we use participe passé, so I would request you utiliser ces verbes en écrivant une phrase au passé composé. Write a sentence in passé composé and going by this rule, try to find out where in participe passé it is a direct object or whether the participe passé should take the number and the gender of the subject. With this, we conclude this particular lesson on reflexive verbs, and je vous souhaite très bon courage, bonne continuation, à la prochaine et au revoir.